You know, sometimes it's easy to take for granted the blessings that we have every single week and just take the music for granted, and it's important to go, we are surrounded by talent, yes? And there's talent living inside each and every one of you, signed, sealed, and delivered. I'm yours. In fact, say that with me. Signed, sealed, and delivered, I'm yours. Every part of you, every beautiful, magnificent, holy part of you, the good and the not so good that is you, signed, sealed, own it, claim it, live it, be it, breathe it, and express it. I'm yours. I belong to life. Say that with me. I belong to... Oh. I belong to love. We belong to each other. Now we're awake, alive, signed, sealed, and delivered. We started a brand new series last week, and it was all about mirrors. And I had you say a number of times, say it again, if you spot it, you got it. Together, if you spot it, you got it. And we began this series of the whole month of August about relationships. And I said that if you want to learn about yourself, study your relationships. You want to grow, you can grow in a church, but you're going to grow more by studying the relationships that are in your life, the good, the bad, and the not so good. Yes? We'll get to that next week, but last week we began the journey with celebrating the lighthouses, the lovers, and the listeners in our life. And we spent some time thinking about those people and realized they were mirrors for us, for the love that was calling for expression, for the light that was calling for expression from within us. How many of you did your homework and actually lived and spent some time with yourself as a lover, a lighthouse, and a listener? It's almost like you're in fifth grade again. Who did their homework? Oh, no. So you still have a whole month to do that homework. I invite you to spend some time with that. Lovers, listeners, and lighthouses, I want to be like them. Say that with me. I want to be like them. Surrounding ourselves with the people that appear to have a little bit extra. And then realizing they're not there by accident, but they're there by a divine appointment to awaken the same good that you see in them, to awaken it in yourself. Today, we continue that journey with mystics, mavericks, and misfits. Say that with me. Mystics, mavericks, and misfits. I want to be like myself. The journey goes from an exterior reality to maybe a little bit more interior as these mystics and these misfits and these mavericks are in the world reflect something that might want attention, might want healing, might want expression within us. More extra special people that are mirrors in our life. So just by show of hands, how many of you identify with mystics? Okay, about a third of us. How many of you identify with mavericks? A few more of you. Let me tell you, as a leader of a church, there should be a lot more hands up in the air. It's like herding cats. It's like herding mavericks around here. How many of you identify with the misfits? Look at all the hands that go up. Look around. Hold them up and claim it proudly. Wave your freak flag. I identify with the misfits. I don't necessarily fit in. And so many times we talk about the spiritual reality that we are one spiritually, and that is absolutely true, but it's important to recognize that we're all having a human experience as well. And that we are brought together as family, as friends, in each other's field, not by accident, but by a divine appointment. I felt like a misfit a good portion of my life. Oh my gosh, Chet has too. Oh my gosh, Bill and Sue feel like misfits. Imani completely fits in, but... the reality is that human experience is important for us to recognize, and it helps us get closer. So I hope that's what we're doing with this series and what we do today. What are the qualities? Think about, close your eyes for a second. You're going to close your eyes a lot today. Close your eyes and think about the people who represent mystics, mavericks, and misfits in your life. What are the qualities that you feel and sense and know about them? I want you to call them out. Just call them out into the room. Call them out like you mean it. All right, and say with me again, if you spot it, together, you got it. In truth, in absolute truth, you're in a unity church that you are probably sitting very close, a short walk to a mystic, to a maverick, and a misfit. But what's more exciting to me is that you're on an even shorter walk to the mystic and the maverick and the misfit that is in your skin. That is doing business as you. The presence of the life and love that we celebrate here, doing business as you. That's a very short walk. All three are different paths to the same end. They may feel very different. I hope we can tie them together. But they're all three manifestations of the same energy. All elicit change. All bring about evolution on a different path. We say many paths, one God. Yes? Many paths, many misfits. One path, many paths, one misfit. Many paths, one mystic. Many paths, one maverick. We belong to each other. All eventually bump up against mainstream thinking. Every one of them is going to push against mainstream thinking, and they're going to invoke evolution in one form or another. Evolution only happens with these people on the planet. And evolution will only happen for you and your family, in your work environment, in your church, in your world, on this earth, if you play the role of mystic, maverick, and misfit. Do you know that? Do you believe that? Do you claim that with me today? How many of us have ever held back being one of those because it didn't feel comfortable? Come on, let's get real. We always do that. Didn't step into the arena because we were afraid. There was fear driving the boat as opposed to the God expression driving the bus of our lives. And each one of them expresses in a different way. Mystics are going to express through life through the spiritual body. Yes? They're connected to the spiritual body. But mavericks through the mental and the physical body. They're using their intellect and their mouth and their body to elicit change. And then, of course, there's the misfits through the emotional body, which isn't necessarily sometimes the easiest path. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it's difficult, yet there still can be change if we are conscious and awake and aware. And as it is with the spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional body, as one inclusive whole, as a singularity, it is three in one: mystics, misfits, and mavericks. Let's begin with the easy one. Mystics. Who has a mystic in your life? Everybody's hand should be up because you are in your life. These are the people that I'm having trouble talking today. I got my tongue spread around my eye tooth and I can't talk straight. Let me breathe. I'm excited about this because I'm looking around and I'm seeing the face of God. Look around and see the face of God. That's what mystics do. So I'm just excited. I'm going to take a breath as a mystic and slow down. These are the people that are in the world, but not of it. They are having a human experience, but they refuse to let the human experience define them. A view of something greater than the day-to-day rat race that we call humanity. A view of what's happening beneath the surface at a higher level of vibration. Everywhere I look, I see the face of God. Say that with me. Everywhere I look, I see the face of God. Now that's easy to do, isn't it? That was an emphatic no. Thank you for the honesty. Mystics are honest. Everywhere I look, I see the face of, oh, there's my teacher. Next week, we'll be talking about nuisances and negativity and narcissists. So, cue the music. Dum, da, dum, dum. Everywhere I look, I see the face of God, including those people, but we'll get there when we get there. Mystics have the ability to see beyond behavior, to see beyond experience, to see at a deeper level the God that is happening in, through, around, and expressed as all people and as all creation. Now, many people have considered these to be rare people on the earth, that they're rare. There's only certain select chosen people that get to be the prophets and the sages and the mystics, and nothing could be farther from the truth. In fact, if you study any of those teachers, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Abraham, study any of them, Lao Tzu, Baha'u'llah, they all absolutely taught that they didn't have anything special. There was nothing unique to them other than they were awake to that which they are. Mystics themselves have instructed us throughout history that the power they have is not special at all, but it is more universal and it is more organic. I am a mystic. Say that with me. I. Turn to somebody to your left and right and say, you are a mystic. Sometimes it's hard to hear. Oh no, now I got to be responsible. Yes, if you spot it, you got it. You see a mystic, somebody sees it in you, you got to raise the vibration to meet the view. These prophets and these sages and these teachers throughout time taught at one level or another that they were merely God's mirror. They were the mirror of God, reflecting the light of God and reflecting back to us what was true about us. What did Jesus himself say? I am the light of the world. Say that with me. But he did not stop there. So turn to your left and your right and say, you are the light of the world. There is a mystic in all of us. There is a mystic in each and every person in this room and each and every person on the planet. It's either cultivated or it's lying dormant, but it is there. Just because I fail to see it doesn't mean that it's not there. Just because you stand in front of the mirror and you cannot see that higher vibration does not mean that it does not exist. Our job, the only difference between Jesus and us, what would it be? The only difference between Buddha and us, Lao Tzu and Krishna and us, what is it? They were awake. You got to give a lollipop to Joel. He got the right answer. He was awake. They were awake. They were awake to the truth of who they were, and they showed up on the planet, in our field, to awaken to us that same light and that same goodness. Now, mystics are always accepted, aren't they? Are they? Mystics in modern religious systems do not fit in. They're often asked to leave churches. Who here, besides me, has been asked to leave a church? Hopefully that's not happening today. They're often asked to leave churches because they cannot play at the level of human limitation. They refuse. They cannot. They do not have the capacity to play in human limitation. Limitations that resemble blind faith devotion to a limited reality. Remember a couple of weeks ago we said, because I said so. Just let me give you the pablum and you just accept it because I said so. Mystics cannot play there. So what do mystics do? They ask questions. So misfits come into a new religious environment and they don't fit in and they won't play at the limitations that often resemble anger and defensiveness and competition and fight. Ever run into those people? So religiously devoted to their path that they are going to take your head off if you don't believe the same way they do. Mystics will not play that way, and mystics have no problem lovingly calling it out into the environment. Something doesn't feel right. This makes mystics also misfits. Jesus was a misfit. Buddha was a misfit. He did not fit the design of the religious environment. They also ask a lot of questions. Have you noticed that? Mystics know and understand that the quality of the question will determine the quality of the experience, so they ask questions to lead current vibrations to the higher vibration, the higher perspective. And questions are often viewed as challenging to limited minds. Anybody been there? You ask a question and somebody is looking through the lens of their defensiveness. They've made it mean something it does not mean whatsoever just because you asked a question. Or maybe you were the person who was defensive. Guilty as charged. Somebody asked a question. What do you mean by that? And the reality is the questions will come out of the mouths of a person who is spiritually awake and seeing a higher reality as a means of bringing that higher reality from here into the manifest realm. And that makes them also mavericks because they're going to challenge the status quo. Their intrinsic motivation is what? What is the intrinsic motivation of a mystic? Come on, Larry, I know you know. I put him on the spot. Anybody, just call it out. What is the motivation of a mystic? Higher vibration, awaken, understanding, growth, beingness. Guess what? You're all right. Yes, 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 yes. Let me give you my answer. It's oneness. Mystics see oneness. They do not see you and me, us and them. They only see the level of oneness. And so they will ask questions in order to create the understanding, the compassion, the love in the room so a bridge can be built between you and me to the place of there's just us, there's we. They will ask questions, and questions are not always received well. Have you noticed that? Who here has been asked to leave a church because you asked too many questions? We're all a bunch of mavericks here. We're all a bunch of mystics. We're all a bunch of misfits. The intrinsic motivation is oneness, but those living in a world of fear, and competition, see them as threat. True mystics don't just challenge the environment, though. True mystics challenge themselves. There's a lot of people on the planet that would call themselves mystics and gurus and sages, and they're all about challenging everybody else. Run as fast as you can from those people if they don't also challenge themselves. One of the things that makes this environment so rich is you are free to challenge the minister as the minister is free to challenge you. And somehow we all grow together. That's a mystical environment. In fact, I said the other day, we are often called a cult. We are the antithesis of what a cult is because we ask you to think. We ask you to challenge. We ask you to grow and to find the God of your understanding. That's a mystical environment. Take a moment and close your eyes. I want you to feel a time when you played that role of a mystic. Get in touch with the vibration that you felt. Feel it at depth. And then ask yourself the question, how am I currently being called to play that role of a mystic today? The expression of God is calling for life through you, through expression through you. How am I being called to be a mystic this year, this day, this moment, this breath, this relationship? Now you can open your eyes. I give homework. You got homework today. You didn't do so well with last week's homework, but you still got time. The homework this week is to nurture a relationship with the mystical part of yourself. That means come apart for a while. All the great masters did it. Step aside, step out of life, breathe, get still, hear the call, feel the call, and then have the guts and the courage to be a mystic, knowing that you might get thrown out. Not of this church, but you might get thrown out of an environment. But you've planted a seed. When you go out the back door or the front door with your head held high, you've planted a seed in that environment. That's what mystics do. They plant seeds. I'm asking you to get in touch with that in one environment this week. Yes? Mavericks. Mavericks. What do you think? I didn't mean to scare you, Judith. I'm sorry. I am a bit of a maverick. She was asleep. Well, Mavericks will wake you up. Mavericks are those people that absolutely refuse to walk lockstep with the status quo. And I thought I would see a lot more hands in this church because you are rebels, you are mavericks, and you are setting the world on fire by being an individual. You want to blaze your own trail. You don't blindly accept anything I say. Sometimes that's hard for me, but at the end of the day, it's really joyous for me because it means I have people that are on their growing edge. They're living on the edge and they're becoming somebody. They are not content with walking the same path that somebody else or everybody else is walking, but prefer to make their own way. In fact, I invite you to say that with me. I prefer to make my own way. I am the way, the truth, and the light, said the master teacher Jesus. But it wasn't Jesus speaking, it was the Christ. It was that which is beneath the surface of the personality of a man. I am the way, the truth, and the life. You are the way, the truth, and the life as the Christed being. As Eric the Christ. As Nita the Christ. And for too long we have played small, giving responsibility for salvation to somebody who lived 2,000 years ago and not the essence that never left. Not a man, not a personality, a divine essence that chose to do business as Dave Patterson. That chose to do business as Winifred singing hallelujah to the heavens. We all should be singing hallelujah because we have the realization that we have the power within us to become everything we are designed to be. That means we have to be a maverick and challenge the world and challenge ourselves. Yes? How many people are comfortable challenging the world? How many people are as comfortable challenging yourself? We're in the right place at the right time. People who are mavericks know that their mark is important to the world. It is important. You are important. You are necessary. You are worthy. These are the independent thinkers. And for any effectiveness, they also need to cultivate in partnership. A maverick mindset without a mystical mindset is in trouble. We've seen those examples. Plenty of mavericks. This is the physical body, the mental body, but they forget that there's a spiritual body involved. What can happen? We've seen it we've seen it since the beginning of time. Mavericks who are gathering to let their voice be heard, to make a change, to make a difference, and the next thing you know, bricks are being thrown through windows. It gets out of control. They drop down into an animalistic mindset without the mystical side of compassion and an understanding and love that we talked about, and wars begin. Yes? So as a maverick, we have the choice of the consciousness behind our words. Choose wisely, because your words are creative, and your words are inviting back into your field exactly what you're putting out. We as mavericks have choices for our words and our actions. Are they put out into the world to elevate or to tear down? The words I'm about to speak, are they there to elevate or to tear down? One will put you in the realm of a mystic, and the other in the realm of an asshole. And I know I just shocked a number of you. I did that intentionally. Wow, the minister said that word. But the reality is, without a consciousness of a mystic, that's what I become. I'm just fighting for the sake of fighting. I'm tearing down for the sake of tearing down. Mystics and mavericks must be cultivated as one within us, or otherwise there is going to be a danger. One will put you in the realm of change, and the other will put you in the realm of creating war, unity and duality. Mavericks can often be tempted to use their desire for change in a negative way. Been there? I've been there. I did it. I am a maverick. I identify with that. But what I found is that when I approach an environment for change that I think needs to be different or needs to be elevated, I can approach with open hands or closed fists. Do that with me. Open hands or a closed fist. Which one feels better? Which one do you think is going to elicit the change that you want better? Make your own path, but be open and understanding and compassionate. I've found that I get a lot more done when I can approach you with an open mind, an open heart, an open spirit, and open hands than when I come at you, we need to go to war. We need to go to battle because you're wrong and I'm right. So what is the motivation of a maverick? It will determine the result. We are the creators of our reality. If your motivation is to tear down, you're going to be torn down. And you'll make no impact on the planet. If picking up a brick and throwing it through a window, smashing a car, lighting a car on fire, or beating the person who's weaker than you or less smart than you is your motivation, guess what? My dad taught me this: there's always going to be somebody bigger than you. When you approach a world of change in a compassionate, loving, and open way, real change can happen. And there's nothing easy about that. The mystic and the maverick need to dance together, and there is nothing easy about that. I don't need any more protests that get out of control where people lose their life. I need protests where strong, courageous, and loving people let their voice be heard, and then change comes about. There's a higher way. Consciousness is the key to the mavericks, evolutionary change. Who are the mavericks that have walked the face of the planet? Let's call them out and bring their energy into the room. John Lewis, Gandhi, Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King made all three of the lists, by the way. He's a mystic, a maverick, and a misfit. What else? Who else? Nelson, you guys getting my list? Here's my list: Martin Luther King, Galileo, Rosa Parks, Margaret Thatcher, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and Chet Bertoli, and Marilyn Siegel. Richard Burdick. No, Burdick. Close your eyes for a second, take a deep breath. When did you have the courage and the strength and the will and the determination to push evolution forward? Get in touch with that part of you, whether it was 5 minutes ago or 50 years ago. Feel it, sense it, and know it. Bring that person who represents a maverick, the names that you called and the ones we didn't mention that are just in the room. Their energy is a mirror for you. Gather their strength and their will and their determination. And then ask yourself the question as you put yourself back into your skin: did I do this with compassion and understanding and love, with an open hand and an open heart? And how am I being called? Here's the question: how am I being called to create that kind of balanced change today? Ask yourself about 3 times in your mind's eye, How am I being called to create that kind of balanced change today? Open your eyes. Now go do it. Go be it. Go breathe it. Go live it. Yes, it is a gauntlet thrown down. It is a challenge, but not just to you, but it's to me as well. The world needs more mystics and more mavericks and more my people. Misfits, my people, I found you. I was so grateful when I walked into this church and realized, wow, there's a bunch of square pegs trying to fit into a round hole. I found my people. People who could not fit in even if they wanted to. And believe me, I spent about 50 years trying to fit in. How about you? The proverbial square pegs in a round hole world. And many of us tried to integrate. Oh man, I tried so hard to be like you, to the point I didn't even know who I was. I tried to fit in only to come to the realization I'm not meant to fit in. I never was meant to fit in. The beautiful expression of God manifest as me was there for a divine purpose, and I was spending most of my life trying to be Julie Steele, trying to be Bill Coons, trying to be, well, everyone wants to be Vilma Orrego. And I realized I was a poor imitation of all these beautiful people. They were mystics, they were mavericks, and when I got to know them, I realized they were misfits too. And together we learned and we grew and we stretched ourselves to realize it's okay to be a misfit. I remember the cartoon, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and my favorite part of that cartoon is the land of misfit toys. And that realization as a kid, it's okay to be different. It's okay to be unique. It's okay to be weird. It's okay to be a nerd. It's okay to be me. I'm not meant to be anything except what I am. You're not meant to be anything except what you are. So yes, wave your freak flag. Celebrate your misfitness. This realization will come through the emotional body. And it's not necessarily a good feeling. I'll just share personally, but you can shake your head if you agree. Misfits often experience sadness to get to the end result. They often experience frustration, pain, a lot of judgment, and a lot of suffering. The mystic maybe didn't get there, but the mystic was a misfit at one point that learned to manage the pain and the suffering and to detach from it. It does not define me anymore. The judgment does not define me anymore. The mavericks, many of them just don't care. Your opinion of me is of no consequence to me. But if you're a misfit, the portal to the oneness, to the love, to the good, is sometimes going to be a painful journey. And that's what I love about this place. We can own our painful journey to get here. How many would say that the road to enlightenment is not paved in easy gold bars? We share that. As misfits, I've fallen down, I've scraped my knee, I've bumped my head, I've forgotten who I was. I allowed your judgment to define me. And I went to sleep at night crying because I just couldn't fit in. And the freedom, you remember the freedom of that exhale? I don't have to fit in because you're all as weird as I am. You're all as bizarre as I am, and in that bizarreness, we find each other. And we find home. And I guarantee you there's going to be 100 environments you will not fit into. But if you fit into this one, for God's sake, show up and let your unique, bizarre expression be seen and be heard. And guess what? People are going to judge. Have you noticed that? That's what we do. We judge. People are going to judge you as a weirdo, whether you accept yourself or not. So you might as well accept yourself because it's not going to change the exterior, but it's going to change the interior. Heaven on earth, dance, dance, dance. I'm a weirdo. I'm a freak. I don't think like anybody else on the planet. I don't dance like anybody else on the planet, I tell you that. I don't sing, I don't move, I don't express like anybody else on the planet. And guess what? The people who cannot accept that will vibrate away from you because vibration seeks its own place. That's why you're here. You're not here by accident. You're here because you are in an environment you want to be fully yourself. A part of your soul says it's time to quit playing small and to just dance. To be uniquely and beautifully you, Justice. Justice is a great teacher for me. Justice, back there, stand up. Justice does not make apology for who he is on the planet. And I guess what? Justice gets judged by people who cannot vibrate at his level of being, and he does not care. Somebody told me at one point if I was going to get into a public arena like this, because I am very private and introverted, said, you better free yourself with a good opinion of others or you're going to die. I came really close to dying, trying to put myself into the mold of what a minister is supposed to be, what a person on a platform is supposed to be. And I remember the moment, it was probably 5 minutes ago, where I said the word, nothing in history would say that that's appropriate for a minister to do. Because everybody's given power to a stupid word. I give power to the light that says, that's the best word to make the point, and it's going to be okay. If we as misfits can resist succumbing to the judgments, we expose in a different way the ignorance of the human race. The lack of compassion that exists in this world. By go ahead, bring the judgment on. It does not get into me because I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm about. That's living as the Christ. That's living as the Buddha. How many people have ever known somebody who just didn't fit in, who ended up exposing the insanity of those that were judging them? And eventually they are the ones that became the center of attention while the bullies either changed or simply vibrated away. Some famous misfits include, you might be surprised. Well, you call them out. You first see if you get my list. Who are the famous misfits that changed, that did not fit in, but rose the vibration and the bullies went away? Martin Luther King. Oh, absolutely. Saint RuPaul, who refuses to allow the judgments to affect him. I put William Shakespeare. You recognize the name? Who? Joan of Arc, yes. Einstein. You know, Einstein was absolutely labeled as mentally retarded. Now, we don't use that term anymore, but that's what they use. The hate used that word, and Einstein changed the world. William Shakespeare changed the world. Joan of Arc changed the world. What about Picasso? Let's get more modern. Princess Diana refused to play at the level of the monarchy that said this is the way you're supposed to be. She changed the planet, and if nothing else, Princess Diana changed my household. Because she is the queen, the princess, the being, the soul, the prophet, the sage that I wanted to watch, who refused to be anything except herself. She is a hero for me. Who? Beethoven. How about modern day Oprah Winfrey? That woman has done more for New Thought than anybody on the planet, and she was ostracized. She didn't have the right body type. So what? She wasn't the right color. So what? She didn't have the right ideas. She challenged the status quo. She was a maverick as well as a misfit. She's also a mystic who has changed the face of the planet single-handedly from poverty to being one of the wealthiest people on the planet, as testimony to her willingness to stand in the fire and to be fully her. Close your eyes again. Close your eyes. How have you been a misfit? And what have you done with that awareness? No judgment. What decision did you make based on the recognition of you as a misfit? And how are you called today to be fully, unapologetically you? And by doing so, change the entire planet. Okay, eyes open. This is the third part of your homework for the week. Online, it's your part of the homework too. It's to stand in front of the mirror. And if you're gutsy enough to do it, take all your clothes off and stand there naked. Oh, he's now meddling. You were all fine with being in front of the mirror until I said take your... No! Isn't that the case? When you put it out there, you want to grow, whether it's standing in front of a mirror or an environment, you're going to go, no, not me. Yes, you. Yes, you. To be authentically, transparently, proudly, each and every one of you. Be the inner Justice Prakash. Be that person. Stand in front of the mirror and have a relationship. Have a relationship with the quirky, bizarre, crazy, out-of-the-box, broken, and beautiful person you are. Signed, sealed, and delivered. I'm yours. As we walk this beautiful earth school, you know what? That deserves more than what God. Signed, say it with me. Signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. Say it again. Signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. Tom Wolfe, you are an epitome of what we're talking about. You come into the room and you change the room. And he told me some of the worst jokes I've ever heard today. And didn't make apology for it. You're going to meet mystics, mavericks, and misfits externally and internally this week by right of our intention. Each one will be your mirror. Each one is going to call you to a higher expression. I'm going to invite SAS folk to come back up. My counsel to you this week is to stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Ground to your soul's authentic, pure nature, your Christed Buddha. I am a Christed Buddha. Say that with me. I am a Christed Buddha. Do you, do you, do you, and play your necessary and important part in the transformation of the planet. I'm going to leave you with a famous line, not the whole poem, but one that I carry with me in my wallet. It's so important to me. It's from Robert Frost. Let's put it up there and read it together. 2 roads diverged in a hidden wood. I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Take the road that nobody's walked and honor the way God has chosen to do business as you.